So, we will set up and solve proportions. So when I give you a test on this, Jeffrey, the first thing I'm going to be grading is your proportion before your answer. So if you don't set up the proportion, Andre, correctly, I'm not even going to look at your answer. I'm looking for the proportion first. Does that make sense for everybody? Cool. Miss Amala, but I know the answer. The answer is this. Fantastic. I'm grading your proportion. Got it? All right, here we go. So a proportions are two ratios that are equal to each other. What is a ratio? A ratio is basically a fraction. So a proportion is two fractions that are equal to each other. So in general, proportion are two fractions that are equal to each other. So I like to say your first sentence is your first fraction. Your first sentence is your first fraction. So let's read the first sentence. The price of 8 oranges is $4. So what are the two things we're talking about? Oranges and dollars. So I'm going to put O for oranges and dollar sign. So 8 oranges, $4. Doesn't matter what the order is. 8 oranges, $4. Why do I put the dollar sign in the O for oranges? So on your second fraction, oranges go on top and money go on the bottom. Miss Emily, does it matter? Yes, it does. These have to match across. O, money, money. Okay? How much would 20 oranges cost? So 20 oranges, does that go on the top or the bottom? Top. We're solving for this bottom one. Don't confuse the O. Maybe I'll do like a cursive O, so you don't think it's 80. Okay, so when I give you a test, this is the first thing I'm grading. Did you set up the proportions correctly? So even before you start like doing math, did you set this up correctly? Yes, that would be a point. Does that make sense? Okay, the second part is actually now doing the math. Does anybody know how to solve a proportion? Yes?
You multiply it by what? You multiply the topper?
What do you mean? Okay, here's the way it always works. There are some shortcuts. I'm not going to show you the shortcut on the very first thing. I'm going to show you the way it always works. To solve a proportion, you cross multiply. Okay, so 8 times x equals 4 times 20. 80. Then we draw our bars. What do? Divide by 8. Because it's this is what we're solving for. We don't know how much money it costs. So you're literally solving for how much would 20 oranges cost. Well, I don't know how much 20 oranges cost, so I write an x. You can write any variable you want. X's are just like fantastic. So then I'm going to solve for x. Well, then we draw our bars. X equals, what's 80 divided by 8? 10. Sorry. So x is equal to 10, $10. I know some of you can solve it differently. I know some of you can solve it without a proportion. Fantastic. But as a 7th grader, you have to write a proportion. What they'll do on a test is they'll write out the proportion for you. They'll literally write it out just like we did right now. Or they might leave this one blank. They'll put a little box, kind of like you're doing now, and like they'll go, okay, type in the number that goes here. You know, that's how they'll test you on setting up proportions, right? That would be the first one. Okay, type in the number that goes here. They give you the word problem. You type in the number 8. So yes, we have to practice and learn how to write proportions. All right, number 2. 3 pounds of apples. Notice I spelled out the number 3. Cost $2. How much will 7 pounds of apples cost? So what are the two things we're talking about? Dollars and pounds. What do we want to put on top?
3.
What units do we want to put on top? Pounds? All right, LBS. Does it matter? No. Yes.
You're talking about your grammar on the start when you didn't even put an S at the end of dollar.
Yeah. $2. $2. All right. 3 pounds, $2. My first sentence, my first fraction. My first sentence, my first fraction. Always keep that in the back of your mind. And then 7 pounds goes on the top. Do we know how much 7 pounds is going to cost? Nope. So we're going to cross multiply. So in this circle, we have 3 times x, 3x, equals, in this circle, we have 2 times 7, 14. All right, so we're going to divide by 3, divide by 3, x equals, do you see how, like, there's no easier way to do this because your answer is going to be a crazy decimal?
You have to do the division.
You mean the division that I'm doing? Yeah. What? How much money is it? About, if we round it to the nearest penny. If we round it to the nearest penny, what would be the cost? Yeah. $4.67, because we would round to the nearest penny, so it would be, because the 6 keeps repeating when we do the math, when we do the long division. All right. Ouch. A recipe that makes 4 dozen cookies requires 3 cups of sugar. How many cups of sugar are needed to make 15 dozen cookies? So what are the 2 things we're talking about in number 4, because I skipped number 3? What are the 2 things you're talking about in number 4? Yeah, cookies and sugar. So I'm going to write the letter C for cookies and S for sugar. Cookies and sugar. All right, plug in your number. First sentence, first fraction. So Edwin, can we do this? You can like organize your binder during Avid. All right, so what's our first fraction? What number goes on top? 4. What number goes on the bottom? 3. Okay, my second fraction. What number goes on top?
15.
What number goes on the bottom?
X.
Good. So you read the first sentence, and that's where my first fraction comes from. Okay, now we're going to cross multiply. So 4 times x equals 3 times 15. 45. Okay. Now we're going to solve a one-step equation by dividing by 4, dividing by 4. X equals, so we go on the side, we divide 45 divided by 4. And what is x equal to? Okay, so these are called proportions. These are for proportions. You saw proportions by cross multiplying and dividing. What does that have to do with our packet? This is the same thing we were doing with our packet, except we're not finding unit rate and then multiplying. So we could find unit rate, like how many cups of sugar for 1 dozen? Now multiply that by 15. But because the unit rates are kind of funky, we set up proportions instead. You could 100% find unit rates for all of these, and then multiply like by 15, by 7, by 20. But the unit rates sometimes are really weird that a proportion's easier. This would be from a table, for example. How do I confuse you? Let me confuse you, please. My job is to confuse you. So if I do a table and I go dozen cookies and cups of sugar, I said 4 dozen is 3 cups of sugar. So 0 dozen is 0 cups of sugar. And I want to know, well, if I have 15 dozen cookies, how many cups of sugar do I need? Oh, 1145. So I shouldn't put a $sign in there. My bad. So there is a way to do it as a table, but look, you get an answer of 1145. That means your unit rate is not a very useful unit rate. It's very like decimals. That's why we do a proportion. It's a lot easier to do a proportion than to, in this situation, than do a table. What did I do wrong?
Why'd you put 11.25 and then on the X you put
Because I need more coffee in my life. Okay? I mean, I was just seeing if you were going to pay attention. It's a test. Look at your paper. If you were 0.45, you also need more coffee in your life. They should install, instead of a hand sanitizer, just kidding, I'm kidding. They should install a coffee maker in each of the classrooms. They should, right? Hand sanitizer. Psh. Just kidding, I'm kidding. Huh? Where? What? I'm not there yet. I'm trying to just deal with the fact that I can't copy a number correctly. All right, May, let's try it out. Joseph earns $50 an hour babysitting his little brother. If he watches his brother for 3 hours on Saturday, how much money does he earn? Okay, so this is a little tricky. Yes, there's a hidden number. What are the two things we're talking about in this problem? Hours and dollars. So the two things we're talking about is money and hours. Money and hours. Miss Amelia, do I have to label? Yes. The reason we label is because kids then place the numbers in the wrong spot for the second fraction. They'll like put them opposite and then it throws off all the math. All right. First sentence is the first fraction. So using the first sentence, you should come out with your first fraction. Read the first sentence. $25. So you're on the back. Sorry. So what's our first fraction?
15 over 1.
Good. Where did we get the 1 from? An hour. An hour means 1 hour. So 15 over 1 equals, what goes on the top? X. What goes on the bottom? 3. Sometimes the X goes on top. Sometimes the X goes on the bottom. Don't always assume it goes on the bottom. I know we just did 3 problems where the X is on the bottom, but here's an example where the X goes on top.
Wait, Miss Amelie.
Yes.
Do we even have to do X equals like
Yeah.
something because it already says it.
What does it say?
Is there a specific thing that tells
X
you
equals
when the X
45.
is on the top or the bottom?
It's just when you label it,
It would be 1x equals 45, but you don't put the 1. The 1's basically invisible, so it's x equals 45.
so here I give you 3 hours. So hours here goes on the bottom. So therefore, oh, how much money? Oh, how much money? Oh, I don't know my money. Your X can be anywhere, top or bottom. It's just how you set it up. So if we go like this, 15 times 3 is 45 is equal to 1 times X is 1X, or just X like Jeffrey was saying. If you divide by 1, you know that X is equal to $45. Okay? All right. Gabby's car uses 30 gallons of gas to travel 200 miles. If the car only has 15 gallons left, which is a lot, how many miles can Gabby's car travel in her car? All right. But what does Miss Amelia grade first? The proportion. So write your proportion first. Even though you can probably solve this one in your head, awesome. What am I first solving? The proportion. So can you set up your proportion first? Without me. At this point, you should be setting up proportions without me. So read it again. Ask yourself, what are the 2 things you're talking about? Label it. I like to start by labeling my units. Then going back, and 90% of the time, your first sentence is your first fraction. 90% of the time. There's always the exception, which just makes the problem harder. 30 over 200, and then 15 over x. All right, are you guys ready for a shortcut? Even before that. Even easier shortcut. Okay, everybody write this down and stop. Don't do the math. I'm going to show you a shortcut with this one. All right. Now, could you multiply across? Yes, that always works.
Long way.
The long way. And especially when your answers are decimal, that's the only way. There are like 3, I think, shortcuts. Here's the first one. You see if there is a relationship between these two, the top ones. How do I go from 30 to 15?
Multiply by 2.
No.
Divide by 2.
Yes.
So that means you do to the bottom?
Correct.
Divide it.
Yes. But watch it. What you say first, okay? How do I go from 30 to 15? I did not say 15 to 30. I went from 30 to 15,
Divide by 2.
which means you're dividing by 2. So whatever you do to the top, you can do to the bottom. And yes, you are allowed to multiply or divide, not add and subtract. Multiply or divide. So if I take this number and divide it by 2, what do I get? So x is equal to 100
Wait,
miles. Yes.
But if you do 200 times 15, you get a different answer.
So if I do it the long way,
Oh, wait, never mind, because then you're
dividing by... I was trying to... So when you're setting up these proportions, you see, like, is there a relationship between, like, going like this? So for, like, the first one, bear with me. You look at 8 and 20. Oops. 8 and 20. Can I go 8 times something to get 20?
Yeah.
Or 8 divided by something to get 20? 8 times what is 20?
Oh,
Nope. So, can't do that shortcut.
I saw 80 on there.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, wait, we could use ratio on this.
These are ratios. Okay. All right, number 7. Mario made $1,500 by selling 4 computers. How much will she make if she sells 6 computers? All right. What are my 2 proportions? Dollars and computers. Dollars and computers. We don't just assume things. You know. I live in the world where you can have different pronouns. Does 6 go on top or the bottom?
Bottom.
That's why we label. Does it make sense to say $6? No. Does it make sense to say 6 computers? Yes. Is there a relationship between 4 and 6? Can I multiply 4 to get to 6? Nope. So sad. So we're going to cross multiply. There is another shortcut, but I don't want to tell it to you just yet. So 1,500 times 6, 0, 0, 30, carry the 3, 9,000. 9,000 is equal to 4x, divide by 4, divide by 4, x equals. Go at your own pace, kids. Go at your own pace. Two, 2,000. $2,250. Not 225. Anyway, it's like, okay, 4 is 1,500, so 6 has to be more than 1,500. So x is 2,225. So the first thing I will grade on Friday's quiz is your proportion. Then the second thing I will grade is the actual answer. Yeah, why not? I did finish grading your quiz from last Friday. I just haven't inputted it into the computer.
Was that fun?
It wasn't as bad as I thought. I graded 14 different things on each paper.
What did I?
People have different stuff?
Wait, what score did I get?
Oh, yes, because I memorized everyone's score.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
I know, I'm the teacher. I'm supposed to memorize everyone's score.
You're supposed to know everyone's like, on the top of your head.
Of course. I know everyone's due now. I know how many Alex topics you did. Everything. Right here. Yep. Mm-hmm.
What do I know how much I did?
Oh, yeah.
0.
A baseball machine pitches 16 balls in 9 minutes. How many balls are pitched in 18 minutes? Oh, this one you can use a shortcut. So what are the two things we're talking about? Balls and minutes. Balls and minutes. All right. Can you set up a proportion before I do? Set up a proportion before I do. That's your first grade. Can you set up just a proportion? I feel like the proportion uses very little math. Very little math. So what number goes on top? 16. And then 9 minutes.
And then X.
And 18.
Is there a relationship?
Yes.
Yes, because I really don't want to multiply 16 times 18 and then divide by 9. No one wants to do that. So you ask yourself, what did I do to 9 to get to 18? Times 2. So what am I going to do on the top? Times 2. And that just seems a lot easier than doing 16 times 18. Can you do 16 times 18 divided by 9? Yes. I'll see you in like 3 hours. Oh, we're going to finish a lot faster. So what is x equal to? 32. I guess, yeah. All right. All right, can you set up the next proportion? All right. So what's my next, for number 9, what's my proportion? Oh, you guys did 12 dozen? No, it's not 12 dozen.
1 dozen.
It's 1 dozen.
Which is equal to 12.
Yeah, but if you say 12 dozen, that's 144. So I would just do 1 dozen.
12 roses.
Why? It says how many dozen. Does it say how many roses? So it's in the form of a dozen, not in the form of single roses. You wanted to make it way harder, way more harder than what it really is. Don't make it harder than what it is, kids. Don't make it harder than what it is.
So you don't put the dozen?
You don't change it to 12.
What?
Unless I
You
said
don't
how
change
many roses I can buy.
Right, but it's in the form of a dozen. So, because you know roses
Oh, yeah, you don't have
form in the
you don't
common
have to-
dozens.
you don't have to-
Is there a relationship between 24 and 96?
Yes.
Times what?
4. Oh yeah, I knew that.
1 times
Oh yeah. Yes.
So, what is x equal to?
4.
4 dozen roses. 4 dozen roses, which is 48 roses, but it's not in the form of roses. It's just, they keep it in the form of dozen. Kind of like number 4. They kept it in the form of 4 dozen cookies. All right. Number 10. Let's do it. Can you set up the proportion before I do it? Read number 10. Set up your proportion for number 10. Yoltik, did you finish number 10? Cards and money. Cards and money. Is there a relationship? Yes. Now, if you don't see relationships, you can just cross multiply and divide. It is a harder math, but I'll do the harder math. 3 times 20 is 60 is equal to 5x. So I'm going to divide by 5. I'm going to divide by 5. X is equal to 12. But if you saw the relationship, it was 5 times what is 20? 5 times 4 is 20, so 3 times 4 is 12. It's a lot easier than doing this. But if you don't see the relationships, then this is the only way you can do it. The hard way. All right. Can you figure out... Ooh, number 11. Oh, a lot of kids mess up on number 11. Don't mess up.
Oh my god. There's so much pressure.
I know. I love it.
Can you do? We would be doing M for both.
No.
I just put M ahead.
Better than cold water. Okay, what are the 2 things you're dealing with?
Minutes and miles.
Yep. Minutes, miles. I put minutes on top. During PE, you ran the mile in 11 minutes. So what's my first fraction? 11 over 1. The mile. That means 1 mile. Kids think it's 3 because they see 2 3s or 3 miles. They want to put 3 2 times. Nope. On the weekend, you ran a total of 3 miles. How long did it take you to run 3 miles? So miles is at the bottom, X. So how long, if I have a constant rate, would it take me to run 3 miles?
33 minutes.
Are we okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. These are a lot of problems I did with you. Usually I don't do this many with you, but it's an intense topic. Don't distract me. I'm trying to be serious here. I'm trying to be serious.
It looks so similar, Mrs. Melly.
It does. It still has the same typos too.
But it has different numbers.
It has different numbers. So if you're confused, you can just look at the back. The proportions will stay the same. The answers will be different. Proportions will stay the same. So let's get to work on the... Yes?
I noticed whichever number comes first in the first sentence, you put on top.
For the most part, yeah. Except for number 11. I did it the other way around. All right, let's get to work on the back. You should have the knowledge